with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples this parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out at dawn to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with them for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. Going out about 9 o'clock, the landowner saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and he said to them, "You too go into my vineyard, and I will give you what is just." So they went off. And he went out again around noon and around 3 o'clock and did likewise. Going out about 5 o'clock, the landowner found others standing around, and he said to them, "Why do you stand here idle all the day?" They answered, "Because no one has hired us yet." He said to them, "You too go into my vineyard." When it was evening, the owner of the vineyard said to the foreman, "Summon the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and ending with the first." When those who had started about 5 o'clock came, each received the usual daily wage. So when the first came, they thought that they would receive more, but each of them also got the usual wage. And on receiving it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "These last ones worked only 1 hour, and you made them equal to us, who bore the day's burden and the heat." He said to one of them in reply, "My friend, I am not cheating you. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what is yours and go. What if I wish to give this last one the same as you? Or am I not free to do as I wish with my own money? Are you envious because I am generous? Thus the last will be first, and the first will be last." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
I don't know about you, but like Father Doug said, this weather is incredible, and I love it. I also, every time I read this gospel, I kind of think, wow, I'm not sure that I would not be a grumbler myself. It's a hard gospel for us to hear. About 35 years ago, I was still living up in Michigan, and I was living in Jackson, and I had one of my brothers living there with me, one of my older brothers, Mike. Not the oldest, but one of the older ones. And we had been over to his house for a graduation party earlier in the day. And my sister-in-law, later that evening, gave me a call. She says, "Mike is feeling a little down in the dumps. He's had a few beers, and maybe you could come over and try and cheer him up." So I found him sitting on the front porch, and he was feeling very bitter that evening. He was resenting his older brother, the oldest brother of the family. He called him the fair-haired child. That night, Mike was very angry, and he just wanted somebody to listen to his grumbling. He went on for almost an hour, and it was very hard for me to listen to. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with that sort of a story, especially if you come from a large family. In today's gospel, they all grumbled. They grumbled because they thought they were being treated unfairly. But the owner simply said, "My friend, I am not cheating you." The owner didn't say "my friends," but "my friend." He addressed only one of them. Perhaps he was the ringleader, the most articulate of the group, the one who grumbled the loudest, the one who became the spokesman for all of the others, for the ones that felt left out. There's a great priest Henry Nouwen, and he wrote many, many popular books on spirituality. And he often wrote about dealing with the many, many resentments that we have in our lives. He insisted that whenever we face our losses, large or small, real or imagined, we really only have two choices: resentment or gratitude. Just like those who grumbled to the owner of the vineyard, the first option is always tempting: to grumble and to complain. In one of his books, Nouwen wrote, "When we are hit by one loss after another, it's very easy to become disillusioned, angry, bitter, and increasingly resentful. The older we become, the greater is the temptation to say, 'Life has cheated me. There's no future for me and nothing to hope for.' The only thing to do is to defend the very little that I have left, so that I won't lose it all." Resentment is one of the most destructive forces in our life. And if we're really honest with ourselves, we would have to admit that it's easier to relate to the grumblers in today's parable than to those who started work late in the day. Who among us has not felt left out at some point in our life? Cheated or abandoned or treated unfairly, or maybe a brother or sister seems to get a bigger chunk of the pie, or a better toy, a nicer pair of jeans, or even a bigger hug. You stand there on the playground maybe, not the first pick, but the last for the game. The new man or woman on the job always seems to get the same salary, the same benefits, maybe a better office or treatment from the boss than you. The will is maybe read after the death of a relative, and someone in the family always feels cheated. Very often, life is not fair. That was a favorite saying of my mom and dad. Life isn't fair. When the parable of the vineyard was first told, it probably referred to a very pious people who felt left out or cheated because Jesus was welcoming sinners and nasty tax collectors to the dinner table and into the reign of God. When the parable was written by Matthew, it probably was told because good Christian Jews resented the fact that they were being treated as newcomers, and that there were newcomers, converted Gentiles, who were given equal status in the community. Like ourselves, our biblical ancestors probably felt resentment to the new kid on the block. That is why this parable was told, and it's still told today. It's not about fair wages or even about justice. It's all about grace. It's about a God whose ways are not our ways, whose thoughts are not our thoughts. It's about an invitation that God extends to every one of us, not just those that feel entitled or feel that they deserve special treatment. It's about grace, God's grace, and it's extended to all of us. Henry Nouwen urged people to learn how to practice what he called the discipline of gratitude. Instead of focusing on our losses with resentment, he urged us to be grateful for the many, many gifts that he has given us. Gifts he also extends to all of humanity. We celebrate this Eucharist in memory of Jesus, who on the night before he died, talk about being unfair, he turned to God and he praised him and thanked him. And out of the very depths of his sorrow, he was grateful. We mourn our losses at this Eucharist. We say, Lord, have mercy. Christ, have mercy. But we also lift up our hearts. Eucharist, it means gratitude. And gratitude is a gift that comes from above. Eucharist is a gift. We can't fake it. We can only receive it, welcome it, embrace it, and be in communion with it. And it's right here. Here where we can turn all of our resentments into thanksgiving. Eventually, my older brother, who had been so bitter, he had lost a business, he had lost a home, he had lost his first wife, remarried and fostered a great attitude of thanksgiving and gratitude. I think we all have that option in our life. It's either to be thankful or to grumble, to have gratitude or to complain. And I ask which one we would prefer here at church at this Eucharist.